Welcome to Is It Really That Bad? Now, we've done two movies in this, or not even movies, but we've done two things in this series now. We've done the Resident Evil Netflix show, which was a very conflicting outcome. The answer is a resounding yes if you are a deep Resident Evil fan, but if you're a casual fan, then you will still find something to enjoy in the show. Personally, I enjoyed it more than the Resident Evil Paul W.S. Anderson shows because there's less to deviate from Resident Evil in it, or a lot less consistently. And then we did, of course, Harry Potter, newest film, Fantastic Beasts and Secrets of Dumbledore, which isn't a bad movie. It's a pretty damn good movie. Uh, Shitty creator, obviously, but the movie on its own merits, the acting, everything about it is on par with the first Fantastic Beasts movie, and in my opinion, better than the first movie. As you can tell in the background, we got Morbius. It's Morbid time, y'all. Um, Obviously, this movie has become a giant meme recently. Um, so is it that bad? Don't feel sorry for me. I bought the movie. I bought it on DVD. It's like this special weird case. The back just says Morbius a bunch of times. Um, but I bought the DVD because I wasn't gonna waste the money on Blu-ray because I already knew the movie wasn't gonna be great. It's a Sony um, in this realm, and Sony has historically not been able to make a fantastic Spider-Man movie for a long time, whether it be Spider-Man himself or his villains. I mean, the Amazing Spider-Man films, while not bad, weren't great. Loved Andrew Garfield's performance. I loved Emma Stone's performance. Honestly, that's where a lot of people had their highest praise was their chemistry, but everything else, not really. The Lizard's appearance, not great. Electro's appearance, not great. Harry's Goblin, not great. Um, Rhino's mechanic thing was solid, but it was literally in the movie for what, 2 minutes, maybe max. Uh, that movie had great characterization when it came to Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker and Emma Stone's Gwen Stacy's, and to a degree, Harry and his illness leading up to his transformation. But it fell flat, really, on the I guess you could say the villain side. Almost all their villains weren't that great, or were really lacking in design. I mean, design. Uh, which again was kind of the same issue I had with Venom One. Was the characterization was great, the action was solid, but the villain of the movie wasn't memorable and wasn't that great. And that's spoiler alert. I'll get into Venom 2 a little bit in this video. That's why I prefer Venom 2 over Venom 1, just because of the antagonist. But we're not here about that. We're here about Morbius right now. Is Morbius really that bad? Um, my brother-in-law and I were talking about this, and he doesn't like Jared Leto as an actor. So obviously, going into this movie, he was not going to like Morbius because the lead star of Morbius is Jared Leto. He doesn't like Jared Leto, so obviously he's not going to enjoy the film. Obviously, so I knew not to really take his opinion at face value, really. And I asked my mom, and she's a little more forgiving. She said she enjoyed the movie. She said she liked it. It was good. I fall in between my brother-in-law and my mother. I did not enjoy this film. There were moments I enjoyed. Matt Smith does a phenomenal job in this movie, being like going on this slow descent of sorts. Um, the lead female, I don't remember her name, but she does a great job. Like the acting in this movie isn't bad. It's not bad. Um, like I was telling my brother-in-law, because he was like, "Yeah, Jared Leto's he's a bad actor, so I wasn't expecting much." It's like there's nothing wrong in Jared Leto's performance of Morbius. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just Morbius is a boring character, in my opinion. Like there are people who are designed to be able to have a solo shot, and not every enemy of Spider-Man or Batman, two of the biggest rogue galleries in history, are going to have that shine, are going to have that ability, are going to have that charisma. Morbius isn't one of them. I mean, yeah, sure, there are instances where he probably could have, maybe if you would already, I don't know, had him like be less crippled. Uh, I just don't find Morbius entertaining at all. Not even just the film, but as a character. Morbius is fascinating, for sure. And as a small arc villain, he's fine. And that's all he's ever really been, is a small arc villain. Like, I remember in the animated Spider-Man show, Morbius had his little small arc where I believe he was... Who was it? He was obsessed with someone. I want to say it was like Felicia Hardy or Gwen Stacy. It was one of the two. And, like, they had a romance of sorts and whatnot. And then he had his plasma. I mean, my issue with Morbius is that it's a boring film. Is it bad? Not in the traditional sense. Like, there's nothing wrong with the plot. It makes sense. There's nothing done with the acting. It's solid. Some are better than others. And there's nothing wrong with the action when it's there. And the keyword is when it's there. The action isn't there all the time. This movie isn't very action-packed. It's very slow-paced. Which is bizarre for a superhero film. I mean, take for example, Eternals. This movie's long. This movie's like an hour and 50 minutes. Not an hour and 50 minutes. 157 minutes. This movie's well over 2 hours long. Gaining on, I'm sure it is 2.5. We're almost 2.5. The movie has solid action paced throughout of it. Eternals is not a bad movie. It's an average movie. But it's still enjoyable. There's still things to enjoy about it. I enjoyed my watch through of Eternals. Do I want to go back and watch it again? No. Hell no. No, I don't. Eternals was good for one watch, maybe another one in a couple years, but as of right now, I have no desire to go back and watch Eternals. Venom, I don't ever want to go back and watch this, especially by myself. If I'm going to watch Morbius again, I need somebody there with me to make fun of it. And even then, that's going to be hard because there's not much to make fun of. The movie is boring. And, there's a philosophy about something where some people are in the idea that a hilariously bad movie is better than an averagely boring movie. Because at least with a hilariously bad movie, whether they're leaning into how bad it is or it's just unironically being bad, it's still vastly more entertaining to watch than a average, boring movie that takes everything too seriously. And don't get me wrong, in a world of Disney's Marvel where everything is almost overly comedic or comedy is added in spots where it's not necessarily needed, but it's kind of in the DNA and the bread and butter of the MCU brand. And even, say, Venom, which I bought at the same time as Morbius, hence it's got the same kind of special case, is very funny. Like, you can tell Venom took cue from Deadpool. Deadpool came out, got really popular in 2016, and then 2018 comes around, Venom's made, and they kind of try and take that Deadpool style into their own, but instead of fourth wall break, it's Eddie talking with Venom, and nobody can see Venom. It's in Eddie's head. So they kind of took the Deadpool style of humor, and instead of implementing fourth wall breaks, they chopped it down to what they can do with uh, Eddie and Venom talking to each other. And that's why it works. That's why it's funny. I mean, I can see why somebody would take umbrage with the Venom series by making Venom more comedic, more likable. And that's the only way you're going to make Venom a likable protagonist is to make him funny, because otherwise he's just a creepy alien who's pretty dark. But I mean, that's what Sony has to do. They have no choice but to do this because they don't have Spider-Man. They can't be trusted with Spider-Man. So they went rogue and decided to make all of these villains their own movies, making them protagonists. Morbius should not be a protagonist. He should not be an anti-hero. Morbius is not an entertaining enough character to deserve his own spotlight. He can be the main villain of a movie. I would have no problem with that whatsoever. But because you are attached to Morbius throughout this entire movie, it suffers because he's not entertaining. More like sure, there's a couple moments where there was one moment I liked where they tried to add comedy, where Morbius goes up to two guys in like this underneath thing, and they're almost like thugs or muggers or whatever, and one of them tries to do something. He catches his hand and he basically breaks all of his fingers. And as the guy's walking away, he's giving him advice on how to heal his hand. I liked that. I thought that was like a good touch of comedy, and an overall very seriously driven movie. Because the thing here is that Morbius, he gets all these powers, and then Matt Smith's character, I forget his name, wants it, but Morbius is like, no, this is a curse, man. This ain't the way to go. And then his character gets upset, thinks he's withholding it, thinks he's being selfish, and then is driven to whatever. And there's daddy issues because of course there's got to be daddy issues in a vampire-esque show. But Morbius, is it really that bad? Is it really as bad as people say it is? No, I don't think it's as bad as people are saying it is. Like, if people are trashing the acting or the visual effects or that kind of stuff, I don't think you can really fault the movie for any of that. The acting is decent to good. The visual effects are what you would expect from Sony. Like, if you think Morbius has bad effects, then you probably think Venom and Venom Let There Be Carnage have bad effects. The other, the like I keep wanting to say, the biggest issue I have with Morbius is it's boring. It is not entertaining. It's not bad. It's not good. It's averagely boring. It's not averagely entertaining. It's averagely boring. There's not enough good moments throughout this movie to make it bearable, in my opinion. It's just a boring movie. Is it a bad movie? No. Is it a good movie? No. It's a boring movie. And that was even more tangible to me because I watched Venom and Morbius in the same night, and I noticed that my mindset, my eyes kept drifting a lot more with Morbius to my phone and other sources throughout the runtime because it's just boring. There was nothing gripping me. There was nothing entertaining me. There was a couple moments here and there, yeah, where my eyes were like, oh, what's happening? Or dialogue moments where I'm like still listening, but I'm not paying attention to the film visually. Just because it's a boring film. Morbius should not have gotten a solo film. There was no reason for him to get a solo film. He was never an entertaining enough character to have a solo film. He can do fine in a minor spotlight, in my opinion. But as a character himself, I don't think he's built to carry a film, to carry a arc solely and be entertaining. Sure, I'm sure there's big Morbius buffs who can withstand it, who can probably get into it, or I can't. But from a casual perspective, Morbius is a boring character. I did not think he would do well as a solo film, and I was right. I mean, in a sense, it exceeded my expectations because at least it was a decent film, but a boring one. And a boring film is almost more offensive than a bad film, for sure. You're going to get less entertainment value. That's fact. Um, like I said, as a little bonus, Venom Let There Be Carnage. I enjoyed more than Venom 1. Their dynamic has been set in stone, so there's no origin that's already there. Their banter, you get from the get go, they're already familiar with each other. Woody Harrelson's Carnage is a far superior villain to whoever the fuck was in the first film. I don't even remember that. The villain from the first film is just outright forgettable. The film would have been so much better had it had a better villain. But it didn't. So, it was still a good film because, come on. Come on. Eddie and Venom had great banter. They took the Deadpool blueprint and made a less entertaining version of Deadpool to a degree. With less violence, even though Venom and Carnage are extremely destructive, extremely violent. It could very well do well in a rated R movie, but, Sony film. PG-13 it is. Just like Morbius, PG-13. Like, this movie probably would have done better if it was rated R. Would have been better. Would have probably been less boring had it been rated R. So, yeah, I think that's all I can really rant on about. Is Morbius really that bad? 80% yes. I would say it is that bad. This is really the first film that I kind of had a definitive negative lean. Resident Evil was very mixed on. I could see people hating it. I could see people liking it. And it definitely was not as bad. Like, that, way not as bad as people were making it out to be. Like, come on. Just because you don't like teen drama shit, that doesn't mean the show is bad. It just means it's not meant for you. And the visual effects. I mean, come on, the visual effects are good. Like, people always like to shit on visual effects when they don't like a film, regardless of whether the visual effects are good or not. I mean, people just like to crap on visual effects, even if they like the film, like with Wonder Woman. To be fair, there was one really bad visual effect at the very end of that movie. I vividly remember at the airport. But yeah, I was very mixed on Resident Evil. Secrets of Dumbledore, I think favorably towards. It was really good. Liked it. I liked it better than the first Fantastic Beasts movie. Morbius, yeah. Say Resident Evil's like right here. Fantastic Beasts is right here. Morbius is like right here. It's just a boring film. Morbius should have never been made into a solo film. If anything, you should have made him a villain for Carnage. Not Carnage. A villain for Venom. Hell, you could have made him the villain for Kraven. Kraven, now that's a character that I think can probably handle being a solo film. Kraven is an interesting and entertaining character. Way more so than Morbius, that's for sure. So with that, that's going to be it for this episode, or this entry into Is It Really That Bad? And today we answered, for the most part, yeah. But more so boring than bad. Hope you have a great day. Remember, you can be the best you can possibly be. If you like the video, like, comment, that'd be super special. Awesome. Subscribe if you haven't. That really helped me out. And Tata for